The little girl's shoes clicked against the polished studio floor as she skipped toward the Family Feud podium, her princess dress sparkling under the bright lights. 7-year-old Sofia Santos looked like she belonged in a fairy tale. Every detail of her appearance perfect, from the carefully curled ringlets in her hair to the tiny pearl earrings that caught the stage lights. But it was the man walking beside her, holding her small hand with calloused fingers, that made Steve Harvey pause mid-introduction. Miguel Santos, 34, looked exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. His suit was pressed and clean, but Steve's trained eye caught the details that told a different story. The slight fray at the cuffs, the careful way he moved to avoid wrinkles, the dark circles under his eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Most telling of all was the way he watched Sofia, with a mixture of pride and worry that only comes from carrying the weight of two parents on one man's shoulders. "And who do we have here?" Steve asked, kneeling down to Sofia's level as he always did with the youngest contestants. "I'm Princess Sofia," she announced with the confidence only a 7-year-old could possess, doing a little curtsy that made her dress twirl. "And this is my daddy. He's the best daddy in the whole world." Steve smiled, but something in Miguel's expression caught his attention. The way Miguel's jaw tightened slightly, the way he blinked rapidly, as if fighting back emotion. "Princess Sofia, huh? Well, you certainly look like royalty. And what does your daddy do?" "He works really, really hard," Sofia said matter-of-factly. "He has 2 jobs, so I can have pretty dresses and go to ballet lessons. Sometimes he falls asleep in his work clothes, but he always makes me pancakes in the morning shaped like hearts." The studio audience let out a collective awe, but Steve noticed Miguel's face had gone pale. This wasn't just a cute kid sharing innocent details. This was a child unknowingly revealing the depth of her father's sacrifice. The Santos family was completing their team. Miguel's sister Rosa, his mother Carmen, and his teenage nephew Danny. They were the kind of family that radiated warmth, despite whatever struggles they faced. But it was clear that Miguel was the anchor, the one holding everyone together. The game progressed normally for the first 2 rounds. The Santos family was competitive, their answers solid, their energy infectious. Sofia cheered enthusiastically for every response, clapping her small hands and bouncing on her toes. Miguel smiled at his daughter's excitement, but Steve could see the weariness in his eyes, the way he kept checking his phone during commercial breaks. During the 3rd round, everything changed. The survey question seemed innocent enough. Name something a parent sacrifices for their children. Simple question, typical Family Feud fare. Miguel stepped up to the podium for his turn, and Steve could see something shift in his demeanor. "Sleep," Miguel answered quietly, his voice carrying a weight that made the studio suddenly feel more intimate. "Sleep," Steve announced. "Good answer," survey says. The number 4 answer appeared on the board, worth decent points. The Santos family celebrated, but Steve's attention was fixed on Miguel, who hadn't moved from the podium. His hands gripped the wooden surface, knuckles white with tension. "You okay there, Miguel?" Steve asked gently, stepping closer. That's when Sofia, who had been watching her father with the intuitive awareness children possess, walked away from the family podium and tugged on Steve's jacket. "Mr. Steve," she whispered, loud enough for the microphones to pick up, "my daddy is tired, but he never shows it." The studio fell silent. Steve looked down at this little girl in her princess dress, then back at Miguel, who was now openly struggling with his composure. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Steve asked Sofia, but his eyes remained on Miguel. Sofia looked up at Steve with the serious expression children get when they're sharing something important. "Daddy works at the restaurant during the day and cleans offices at night. Sometimes I hear him come home when it's still dark, and he sits in his car for a long time before he comes inside. I think he's crying, but when I ask him, he says he was just listening to music." The camera caught Miguel's face as his daughter's words hit him. 7 years of holding it together, 7 years of being strong. 7 years of making sure his daughter never knew how hard everything was, crumbled in an instant. "Sofia," Miguel whispered, his voice breaking. "Baby, you weren't supposed to know that." But Sofia continued, her child's honesty cutting through every defense her father had built. "I know you're sad sometimes, Daddy. I know you cry in the car. But I also know you love me more than all the stars in the sky, because you told me so." Steve Harvey, who had hosted thousands of hours of television, who had faced every possible situation a game show could throw at him, found himself in completely uncharted territory. This wasn't just a touching family moment. This was a 7-year-old girl, revealing the depth of her father's sacrifice, while that father stood exposed and vulnerable in front of millions of viewers. Behind the scenes, producers made a decision that defied every network expectation. Keep the cameras rolling. Some stories needed to be told. Steve walked over to Miguel, who was now leaning against the podium, shoulders shaking with the effort of holding back years of suppressed emotion. "Miguel," Steve said softly, "look at me, brother." Miguel raised his eyes and Steve saw everything. The exhaustion, the worry, the love, the sacrifice, the fear that he wasn't enough, wasn't doing enough, wasn't giving his daughter the life she deserved. "How long have you been doing this alone?" Steve asked. 7 years, Miguel managed to say. Her mother left when Sofia was 6 months old, said she wasn't ready to be a mother. "I've been trying to be both parents ever since." Steve nodded slowly, understanding flooding his face. 2 jobs, restaurant work during the day, office cleaning at night. "Sofia stays with my mother during the day, and I pick her up after my first job. I want her to have everything, Mr. Harvey, dance lessons, pretty clothes, a good school. I want her to know she's a princess, even if I can't give her a palace." The studio was completely silent, except for the soft sounds of people crying. Even the competing family had tears in their eyes, no longer thinking about points or prizes. Sofia walked over to her father and wrapped her small arms around his waist. "Daddy, I don't need a palace. You make me feel like a princess every day." That's when Steve Harvey did something unprecedented. He stopped the game entirely. "Ladies and gentlemen," Steve announced, his voice carrying the gravity of the moment. "Sometimes this show gives us more than entertainment. Sometimes it shows us what real heroism looks like. Miguel Santos, you are not just a father, you are a king raising a princess. And it shows in every single thing about this beautiful little girl." Steve reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his personal business card. He walked to Miguel and pressed it into his hands. "Miguel, I want you to call me. Not for the show, not for publicity, because I know some people who believe that good fathers deserve support, and good fathers like you deserve more than just getting by." But Steve wasn't done. He began to remove his suit jacket, the same jacket he wore for every taping. "Sofia," he called to the little girl, who looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes. "Come here, princess." Sofia skipped over and Steve knelt down to her level. "This jacket has been with me through thousands of shows, sweetheart. But today, it's going home with someone special. I want you to give this to your daddy, and I want you to tell him that Steve Harvey says he's doing an amazing job." He draped the jacket over Sofia's small shoulders, and it hung like a royal cape. Then Steve stood and addressed Miguel directly. "Brother, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see how hard you're working. I see how much you love your daughter, and I want you to know something. Starting Monday, you're going to get a call about a scholarship program for Sofia's education, because princesses deserve the best schools, and kings like you deserve to know their sacrifice wasn't in vain." Miguel broke completely then. 7 years of holding everything together, finally giving way. Steve pulled him into an embrace. Not the quick hug of television, but the kind of hug one father gives another when words aren't enough. The audience rose to their feet, not in applause, but in recognition. The competing family abandoned their podium entirely, joining the Santos family in a group embrace that transcended competition. Sofia, still wearing Steve's jacket, looked up at the adults around her with the wisdom only children possess. "See, Daddy? I told you you were the best daddy in the world. Now everybody knows." The episode aired exactly as it happened. Unedited, raw, real. The response was overwhelming. The scholarship program Steve mentioned was funded within hours by viewers who were moved by Miguel's story. A local restaurant offered Miguel a management position with benefits and regular hours. Most importantly, Sofia's dance school offered her a full scholarship, ensuring that her father's sacrifices would continue to bloom into the opportunities every parent dreams of for their child. 6 months later, Miguel sent Steve a photo, Sofia in her dance recital costume, beaming with pride, and Miguel in the audience. Steve's jacket carefully preserved and framed behind them, a reminder of the day when a game show became something sacred. In the photo, Miguel looked different, rested, peaceful, still proud, but no longer carrying the weight of the world alone. Because sometimes, when the world sees your sacrifice, it responds with the support you never dared to ask for. The letter accompanying the photo was simple. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for seeing her. Thank you for reminding me that good fathers aren't meant to carry everything alone." Sofia still calls herself Princess Sofia, but now she also says her daddy is King Miguel, and I finally feel worthy of the title. Some stories end with game show prizes. Others end with something much more valuable, a father who no longer has to choose between providing and being present, and a daughter who will grow up knowing that love, real love, always finds a way to multiply when it's shared.